What is going on, everybody? Happy Monday, and I hope you are all doing well. Well, we did it. We did it. Can everybody hear me okay? We did it. That dream that I had that one time, that one day, has become a reality. Excellent. We believed, and I thank you so much for believing in ghosts. A few special shout outs, of course. There are members in the chat already, and I can't thank you all enough. Caradox Rift being my first ever member coming through. Matt, JR coming through shortly thereafter. JB's Pokestop. Brangus McGee. All of these mean so much to me that you all believe so much in me to jump on the membership. And that comes with a lot of trust. And I promise I will not break that trust. It really is a dream, right? First Ghost fan. You do have that record of being the first Ghost fan, Matt Gooch. You absolutely do. And I feel like the maybe best way, maybe not, maybe I'll hold on to him. EDF coming through, membering up. What's going on, EDF? I appreciate that, fam. How are you doing? It is good to see you. Love it. I love it too. And I know this was kind of a Spolo. How's it going? And Caradox Riff, the GOAT for the first ever overall membership. Exactly. I'm always going to remember that. Yeah. Just like I told you, when you get your membership, I'll be with you, man. I appreciate you so much, EDF. It is so good to see you. Glad we got the super chats now too. Yes, the super chats are available as well. Oh yeah, JR is absolutely next. There's a lot of people that are next. Just keep on at it, y'all. You do have it. Day one members, get in. Day one. They went live this morning. I woke up and I started working at it. And I had a thought, because I know that tonight it's just our reading stream, y'all. So I do want to make that kind of known. So I wasn't sure as to when to start it, and I figured I would just turn it on, let it go, and see what happens. So this is technically the first monetized stream, technically, with memberships. But Thursday, Saturday, we're going to find some things to do to have a little celebration as well. So I super appreciate everybody being here, all your support, the early members, the day one members. And I'm going to work on getting like milestone icons, and I'm going to work on getting GIFs and emojis in the chat. So it means the world to me. Far Out Genetics, what's going on? It's good to see you. I appreciate you being here. Ancient Mew, always ready to go on a Monday. No, that truly does mean the world to me, man. You pile on so much support for the community as a whole, and I just can't thank you enough. We are still going to get into our story tonight, and then of course I want to remind you to come back Thursday, Saturday. We're gonna get back into our opening stuff, and I think I have something fun to do. I think I found something fun. It's interesting, and I think I need to do it. So need good support, man. Truth be told, that is the absolute truth. No, and that makes one of us. I didn't doubt my ability, but what I will say is how fast it happened and how fast it continues to grow, I think is where my mind is at. And that to me that's bonkers. It happened so fast, and Ancient Mew made a comment as well that I went from 700 to 800 within like a couple weeks. And that's all thanks to y'all promoting and dropping my links in chat and sending people my way, and ALB with the raids and Rocket Scott with the raids, and now I'm only 19 away. Caradox Rift coming in with the 2, breaking the super chat. Sherry. Kara also taking the first super chat. I appreciate that, Kara, so much. That's so amazing. So amazing. Did not have to, but I appreciate you so much. How much you and your stream means and does for me. No way I'm not supporting showing you the love. Man, I absolutely appreciate that, and all I can promise is I'm going to continue to be me, be here, run this channel, and be here to do just that. And at the same time, Brangus, I couldn't imagine making it to this step without that support and your generosity. So for what it is worth, thank you. Thank you, thank you. And I'm working on my cube as we speak, as is tradition. And I'm going to do my absolute best to keep it to the 2-hour mark. If we go longer, we go longer. If we get a crowd, we get a crowd. We'll see what happens. Last time, we ended up finishing the whole book because Mr. ALB decided to bring in the residual raid from DPM. And so I think that is what pushed me over the edge. Let's get this train rolling. Oh, Brangus. Oh, Brangus. That means the world to me. Y'all have no idea. No idea. And it's still very surreal. Very surreal to me to see, because I've sent so many of those and I've seen so many, and never from this side. So it is an experience. And I appreciate every single one of you sharing this experience with me. I don't know what I would do without you. It's a almost terrifying experience, but it's thrilling and it's worth it. And if this is what you aspire to do, all I can say is keep pushing. Keep pushing, because it is a tough grind, but if you believe and you have others believe in you, the work is half done. You know where else, bro? JB's means the world to me as well. And I'm looking forward to see you grow and your channel flourish and succeed, because you've definitely got some good ideas and some good things coming, man. So just keep it up. And you know, I'm here for you if there's ever anything you need. And same for you, Brangus. I'm always going to be here, brother. You know how to get a hold of me, and I will always answer. Let's put this guy here. Matt Gooch coming in with the 10. Matt. Radio Hobbies coming through. Welcome to the Spirit Clan. I appreciate you. Welcome in. Hope you are doing well tonight. Your support means the world. Matt Gooch, man. You're insane. I appreciate you, brother. I really do. Chugga chugga. So yes, the last leading stream in since then has been surreal, because that's pretty much when everything happened. So we'll try and keep that same energy going tonight, and we are going to get back into our book. We ended up staying and just finishing that last book. So I read chapters 9 through 24 in the last stream, ended up going for about 3 hours. So we actually get to start a new book tonight, which is kind of exciting, and it's my favorite kind of book, which is kind of like an anthology. So it's going to go through stories throughout Oz that kids have been curious about, like the Gnome King and characters we've met all along the way. So I'm really excited to get into that. I do have one layer left, and we want to make sure that our friends can get in, all that are looking to listen. And thank you all. Thank you all for being here and ready to listen, ready to hang out. I've been looking forward to this all day, just simply because I get to see you all and seeing the support as I knew was coming. All I can say is simply thank you. The man of every word is suddenly a very, very few. JB sending a gifted membership. Ancient Mew getting the membership. Let's go. Sniped. Alien. First off, good morning and welcome. Welcome to the Spirit Clan, Alien. Super appreciate you. JB for the win, indeed. And this being early. These went live way early in the day. And before I even realized what was happening, Kara came through and picked up the first one before I was even live. This was when it was still morning. And then Matt shortly thereafter. So, but it's just as important, and your support means the absolute most to me. Thank you so much. Ancient Mew scooping up the gifted membership. Gotta love it. Love to see it, dude. Love to see it. There we go. Can't stay today. The funds are low, so I won't be a member forever. But so no worries at all, Haley, and I get it, and I understand. Super appreciate you popping in and the support that you can. You're certainly right behind me, so just keep grinding at it, because if you want it, you can take it. You can certainly look if you can do that. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that changed. It's always limited as to what will allow me to hype, and I don't know if I've ever done it yet. I've tried, but it's never come up. Adam Jones. Hope you're doing well today. I know that's something. Doing well. How was your day today? No, I got something coming out to you real soon. And that's the cube. The cube is solved. Adam Jones coming through with the sticker. That's super cute. Look at the little sticker. And I appreciate that, man, truly. Truly do appreciate that. Means the world. I do have something that I did see, and I think maybe I'll do maybe half now, half on Thursday, or what do you guys think? Because they allow me to gift 10 memberships a month, and I'm right at the end of this month. Kev this. So should I use them now and gift out some? My only worry is that we're not doing the Pokemon thing today, so if people start showing up, I don't think it matters. I'm doing it. I'm excited for it. Half and half, that's what I was thinking, Halion. So we'll do half and half. So first 5 gifted memberships by me and the channel getting sent to Adam Jones. Next, Catch 'em All Kev and The Rock. Sean Bowden. 5 legends. What's up, Johnny Knight? How are you doing? Look at them snipes, right? Great gifted list, right? Heavy hitters in there. Sean Bowden, The Rock, Catch 'em All Kev next, Adam Jones. Psh, welcome in, Adam Jones. Alec Longoria. I hope you're doing well, brother. Ungifted people not here anyway. Advertising for story teams. Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Come and listen to the story. Mad love, bro, man. I appreciate that. County Night coming through with the dono. I appreciate that, brother. I hope you're doing well. And your support means the world. The gift membership, yeah, absolutely. Appreciate your support, Adam Jones. You've certainly been in more than a few chats. I can attest to that. And you've pulled out some miracles in those chats too, man. But the one thing that I can say I'm most grateful for is your friendship. So I super appreciate you being here. Brangus, used to you. Everybody saying hello to everybody. I accidentally went hog on my cube, so I'm just gonna put it back again. That was a nervous tick. I have to have met this particular ghost. Yeah, this ghost. Phantom of Kindness. That's my twist. And this ghost is grateful to have met each and every single one of you. Y'all have changed my life drastically. Seeing my comment, there you go. Loving the support. I've been so darn busy with work lately that part of my hobby is kind of fallen short, and I always feel terrible when I can't give you all the time that I want to give you. But I am going to be sitting down and figuring that out exactly of how I can manage all of it, because I want to make sure that you all know I support you just as much and your endeavors. Just like that. Pop this down. See our little L shape. There we go. We're about that 18-minute mark, y'all, so it's a little bit more, but I wanted to just take time tonight. I wanted to just express my gratitude. And thank you all so much for your continued support. It truly means the world to me. First monetized stream, but I have to head out. Hard to find a free moment. Then no worries at all. We'll see you soon, Haley, and I hope you have an amazing day. There's a little cardboard picture connects UK. Oh, crazy how these little cardboard pictures connects us all. I agree. You know, that times, bro, you deserve it. You're a great content creator, a good friend. Keep up the amazing work, my brother. Man, that means the world to me, Johnny Knight. Thank you so much. And I just want to reciprocate that as well. Your content is great. And yeah, keep doing what you're doing, man. Keep doing what you're doing. I will always be here for you. If you ever need anything, just reach out. And if I got it, you got it. Wunderbar. Now we just sexy move a bunch. And bada bing, bada boom. Oh, my dog is crying suddenly. This hat was actually, wow. This was a gift, and it came from somebody at work. We were doing a Secret Santa one year instead of a white elephant. And I guess the girl that picked me was like, I have no idea what they like and like what they're into. So what do I get them? And my buddy Nick, the artist of the pictures that I showed some time ago, he was like, oh, just get him this. And then he went into a Hot Topic or something, and he found this Haunter hat, and it's been with me ever since. It's actually been with me since long before I became the Pokey Ghost. So, yeah. I know it's backwards on stream, but... oh, it's not. It's just backwards to me. Faster than I could type. Hello, my fantastic son. Just wanted to let you know I love you. I gotta go to bed. Absolutely, Mama Ghost. Excuse me. I appreciate you showing up. Just if but for a second. You know I love you. I hope you have a great night. And yeah, text me tomorrow. All right. Well, I think that 20 minutes in now. Thank you all so much for your support and the memberships already. Kara telling Mama Ghost, hope she enjoyed her birthday. The bestest. That's me, I say that. But yes, absolutely, I will text you. And yes, thank you all so much for your support. I will say that today. I don't want to say it shocked me because I know you all are there. But to see it all in real time, it's given me emotions that I didn't anticipate having. So with that being said, I want you to know that I appreciate you all. I'm looking forward to continuing what I do. Bringing you more artist appreciation is going to start back up. And I'm thinking about changing it up a little bit. So I'm glad you had the best birthday ever, Mama. Well, without further ado, we are going to get into reading. And we are going to be reading The Emerald City of Oz, I think it's called. I know it's called. And it's pretty much comprised, from what I can gather, a bunch of side stories from the people in Oz. So we're actually going to start with the Gnome King and how the Gnome King became angry. So everybody, thank you so much for being here. The chats, the memberships. Let's have fun together and see how far we can take it. Appreciate you, JB. It is story time with the ghost. How the Gnome King became angry. The Gnome King was in an angry mood, and at such times he was very disagreeable. Everyone kept away from him, even his chief steward, Calico. Therefore the king stormed and raved all by himself, walking up and down his jewel-studded cavern and getting angrier all the time. Then he remembered that it was no fun being angry unless he had someone to frighten and make miserable. And he rushed to his big gong and made it clatter as loud as he could. In came the chief steward, trying not to show the Gnome King how frightened he was. "Send the chief counselor here," shouted the angry monarch. Calico ran out as fast as his spindle legs could carry his fat, round body, and soon the chief counselor entered the cavern. The king scowled at him and said, I'm in great trouble over the loss of my magic belt. Every little while I want to do something magical and find I can't because the belt is gone. That makes me angry, and when I am angry, I can't have a good time. Now, what do you advise?" "Some people," said the chief counselor, "enjoy getting angry." "But not all the time," declared the king. "To be angry once in a while is really good fun, because it makes others so miserable. But to be angry morning, noon, and night, as I am, grows monotonous and prevents my gaining any other pleasure in life. Now, what do you advise?" "Why, if you are angry because you want to do magical things and can't, And if you don't want to get angry at all, my advice is not to want to do magical things." Hearing this, the king glared at his counselor with a furious expression and tugged at his own long white whiskers while he pulled them so hard that he yelled with pain. "You are a fool," he exclaimed. "I share that honor with your majesty," said the chief counselor. The king roared with rage and stamped his foot. "Ho there, my guards," he cried. "Ho is a royal way of saying, 'Come here.'" So when the guards had hoed, the king said to them, "Take this chief counselor and throw him away." Then the guards took the chief counselor and bound him with chains to prevent his struggling and threw him away. And the king paced up and down his cavern more angry than before. Finally, he rushed to his big gong and made it clatter like a fire alarm. Calico appeared again, trembling and white with fear. "Fetch my pipe," yelled the king. "Your pipe is already here, your majesty," replied Calico. "Then get my tobacco," roared the king. "The tobacco is in your pipe, your majesty," returned the steward. "Then bring a live coal from the furnace," commanded the king. "The tobacco is lighted, and your majesty is already smoking your pipe," answered the steward. "Why, so I am," said the king, who had forgotten this fact. "But you are very rude to remind me of it." "I am a low-born, miserable villain," declared the chief steward humbly. The Gnome King could think of nothing to say next, so he puffed away at his pipe and paced up and down the room. Finally, he remembered how angry he was and cried out, "What do you mean, Calico, by being so contented when your monarch is so unhappy?" "What makes you unhappy?" asked the steward. "I've lost my magic belt. A little girl named Dorothy, who was here with Ozma of Oz, stole my belt and carried away with her," said the king, grinding his teeth with rage. "She captured it in a fair fight," Calico ventured to say. "But I want it. I must have it. Half my power is gone with that belt," roared the king. "You will have to go to the land of Oz to recover it, and your majesty can't get to the land of Oz in any possible way," said the steward, yawning because he had been there on duty 96 hours and was sleepy. "Why not?" asked the king. "Because there is a deadly desert all around that fairy country, which no one is able to cross. You know that fact as well as I do, your majesty. Never mind the loss of your belt, you have plenty of power left, for you rule this underground kingdom like a tyrant, and thousands of gnomes obey your commands. I advise you to drink a glass of melted silver to quiet your nerves, then go to bed." The king grabbed a big ruby and threw it at Calico's head. The steward ducked to escape the heavy jewel, which crashed against the door just over his left ear. "Get out of my sight, vanish, go away," said the general, "and send General Blug here," screamed the Gnome King. Calico hastily withdrew, and the Gnome King stamped up and down until the general of his armies appeared. This gnome was known far and wide as a terrible fighter and a cruel, desperate commander. He had 50,000 gnome soldiers, all well drilled, who feared nothing but their stern master. Yet, General Blug was a trifle uneasy when he arrived and saw how angry the Gnome King was. "Ha, so you're here," cried the king. "So I am," said the general. "March your army at once to the land of Oz, capture and destroy the Emerald City, and bring back to me my magic belt," roared the king. "You're crazy," calmly remarked the general. "What's that? What's that? What's that?" And the Gnome King danced around on his pointed toes. He was so enraged. "You don't know what you're talking about," continued the general, seating himself upon a large cut diamond. "I advise you to stand in a corner and count 60 before you speak again. By that time, you may be more sensible." The king looked around for something to throw at General Blug, but as nothing was handy, he began to consider that perhaps the man was right, and he had been talking foolishly. So he merely threw himself into his glittering throne and tipped his crown over his ear and curled his feet up under him and glared wickedly at Blug. "In the first place," said the general, "we cannot march across the deadly desert to the land of Oz, and if we could, the ruler of that country, Princess Ozma, has certain fairy powers that would render my army helpless. Had you not lost your magic belt, we might have some chance of defeating Ozma. But the belt is gone. I want it! Screamed the king. I must have it! Well then, let us try in a sensible way to get it, replied the general. The belt was captured by a little girl named Dorothy who lives in Kansas, in the United States of America. But she left it in the Emerald City with Ozma, declared the king. How do you know that? Asked the general. One of my spies, who was a blackbird, flew over the desert to the land of Oz and saw the magic belt in Ozma's palace, replied the king with a groan. Now that gives me an idea, said General Blug thoughtfully. There are 2 ways to get to the land of Oz without traveling across the sandy desert. What are they? Demanded the king, eagerly. One way is over the desert, through the air, and the other way is under the desert, through the earth. Hearing this, the Gnome King uttered a yell of joy and leaped from his throne to resume his wild walk up and down the cavern. That's it, Blug, he shouted. That's the idea, General. I'm king of the underworld, and my subjects are all miners. I'll make a secret tunnel under the desert to the land of Oz, yes, right up to the Emerald City, and you will march your armies there and capture the whole country. Softly, softly, your majesty, don't go too fast, warned the general. My gnomes are good fighters, but they are not strong enough to conquer the Emerald City. Are you sure? Asked the king. Absolutely certain, your majesty. Then what am I to do? Give up the idea and mind your own business, advised the general. You have plenty to do trying to rule your underground kingdom. But I want the magic belt, and I'm going to have it, roared the Gnome King. I'd like to see you get it, replied the general, laughing maliciously. The king was, by this time, so exasperated that he picked up his scepter, which had a heavy ball made from a sapphire at the end of it, and threw it with all his force at General Blug. The sapphire hit the general upon his forehead and knocked him flat upon the ground, where he lay motionless. Then the king rang his gong and told his guards to drag out the general and throw him away, which they did. This Gnome King was named Roquat, the Red, and no one loved him. He was a bad man and a powerful monarch, and he had resolved to destroy the land of Oz and its magnificent Emerald City to enslave Princess Ozma and little Dorothy and all of the Oz people and recover his magic belt. The same belt had once enabled Roquat the Red to carry out many wicked plans. But that was before Ozma and her people marched to the underground cavern to capture it. The Gnome King could not forgive Dorothy or Princess Ozma, and he had determined to be revenged upon them. But they, for their part, did not know they had so dangerous an enemy indeed. Ozma and Dorothy had both almost forgotten, and such a person as the Gnome King yet lived under the mountains of the land of Ev, which lay just across the deadly desert to the south of the land of Oz. An unsuspected enemy is doubtedly dangerous. Sorry, doubly dangerous. My eyes are playing tricks. Catch 'em all, Kev. What's going on, fam? I hope you're doing well. Cora's listening to you read. Let's go. What's up, Cora? I hope you're doing well. It's good to see you. And what's up, Mike? Appreciate you being here, fam. That's all about how the Gnome King, why the Gnome King was angry. He's without his magic belt. Dorothy stole it. Without further ado, let's keep going. And let's find out how Uncle Henry got into trouble, Chapter 2. Dorothy Gale lived on a farm in Kansas with her Aunt Em and Uncle Henry. It was not a big farm, nor a very good one, because sometimes the rain did not come when the crops needed it, and then everything withered and dried up. Once, a cyclone had carried away Uncle Henry's house, so that he was obliged to build another. And as he was a poor man, he had to mortgage his farm to get the money to pay for the new house. Then his health became bad, and he was too feeble to work. The doctor ordered him to take a sea voyage, and he went to Australia and took Dorothy with him. That cost a lot of money, too. Uncle Henry grew poorer every year, and the crops raised on the farm only bought food for the family. Therefore, the mortgage could not be paid. At last, the banker who had loaned him the money said if he did not pay on a certain day, his farm would be taken away from him. This worried Uncle Henry a good deal, for without the farm, he would have no way to earn a living. He was a good man, and worked in the field as hard as he could, and Aunt Em did all the housework with Dorothy's help, yet they did not seem to get along. This little girl, Dorothy, was like dozens of little girls you know. She was loving and usually sweet-tempered, and had a round, rosy face and earnest eyes. Life was a serious thing to Dorothy, and a wonderful thing too, for she had encountered more strange adventures in her short life than many other girls of her age. Aunt Em once said that she thought the fairies must have marked Dorothy at her birth, because she had wandered into strange places and had always been protected by some unseen power. As for Uncle Henry, he thought this little niece merely a dreamer, as her dead mother had been, for he could not quite believe all the curious stories Dorothy told them of the land of Oz, which she had several times visited. He did not think that she tried to deceive her uncle and aunt, but he imagined that she had dreamt it all of those astonishing adventures, and that the dreams had been so real to her that she had come to believe them true. Whatever the explanation might be, it was certain Dorothy had been absent from her Kansas home for several long periods, always disappearing unexpectedly, yet always coming back safe and sound, with amazing tales of where she had been and the unusual people that she had met. Her uncle and aunt listened to her stories eagerly, and in spite of their doubts, began to feel like the little girl had gained a lot of experience and wisdom that were unaccountable in this age, when fairies are supposed to no longer exist. Most of Dorothy's stories were about the land of Oz, with its beautiful Emerald City and lovely girl ruler named Ozma, who was the most faithful friend of the little Kansas girl. When Dorothy told about the riches of this fairy country, Uncle Henry would sigh, for he knew that a single one of those great emeralds that were so common there would pay all of his debts and leave his farm free. But Dorothy never brought any jewels home with her, so their poverty became greater every year. When the banker told Uncle Henry that he must pay the money in 30 days or leave the farm, the poor man was in despair, and he knew he could not possibly get the money. So he told his wife, Aunt Em, of his trouble, and she first cried a little, and then said that they must be brave and do the best they could, and go away somewhere and try to earn an honest living. But they were getting old and feeble, and she feared that they could not take care of Dorothy as well as they had formerly done. Probably the little girl would also be obliged to go to work. They did not tell their niece their sad news for several days, not wishing to make her unhappy, but one morning the little girl found Aunt Em softly crying while Uncle Henry tried to comfort her. Then Dorothy asked them to tell her what was the matter. "We must give up the farm, my dear," replied Uncle Henry sadly. "The wanderer and wander away into a world to work for our living." The girl listened quite seriously, for she had not known before how desperately poor they were. "We don't mind for ourselves," said her aunt, stroking the little girl's head tenderly. "But we love you as if you were our own child, and we are heartbroken to think that you must also endure poverty and work for a living before you have grown big and strong." "What could I do to earn money?" asked Dorothy. "You might do housework for someone, dear. You are so handy, so perhaps you could be a nursemaid to little children. I'm sure I don't know exactly what you can do to earn money, but if your uncle and I are able to support you, we will do that willingly and send you to school. We fear, though, that we shall have much trouble in earning a living ourselves. No one wants to employ old people who are broken down in health as we are." Dorothy smiled. "Wouldn't it be funny," she said, "for me to do housework in Kansas when I'm a princess in the land of Oz?" "A princess?" they both exclaimed, astonished. "Yes. Ozma made me a princess some time ago, and she has often begged me to come and live always in the Emerald City," said the child. Her uncle and aunt looked at her in amazement. Then the man said, "Do you suppose you could manage to return to your fairyland, my dear?" "Oh, yes," replied Dorothy. "I could do that easily." "How?" asked Aunt Em. "Ozma sees me every day at 4 o'clock in her magic picture, She can see me wherever I am, no matter what I am doing. And at that time, if I make a certain secret sign, she will send for me by means of the magic belt, which I once captured from the Gnome King. Then, in a wink of an eye, I shall be with Ozma in her palace." The elder people remained silent for some time after Dorothy had spoken. Finally, Aunt Em said, with another sigh of regret, "If that is the case, Dorothy, perhaps you'd better go live in the Emerald City. It will break our hearts to lose you from our lives, but you will be so much better off with your fairy friends that it seems wisest and best for you to go." "I'm not so sure about that," remarked Uncle Henry, shaking his gray head doubtfully. "These things all seem real to Dorothy, I know, but I'm afraid our little girl won't find her fairyland just what she had dreamed it to be. It would make me very unhappy to think that she was wandering among strangers who might be unkind to her." Dorothy laughed merrily at this speech, and then she became very sober again, for she could see how all this trouble was worrying her aunt and uncle, and knew that that unless she found a way to help them, their future lives would be quite miserable and unhappy. She knew she could help them. She had thought of a way already, yet she did not tell them at once what it was because she must ask Ozma's consent before she would be able to carry out her plans. So she only said, "If you will promise not to worry a bit about me, I'll go to the land of Oz this afternoon. And I'll make a promise too, that you shall both see me again before the day comes when you must leave this farm." "The day isn't far away now," her uncle sadly replied. "I did not tell you of our trouble until I was obliged to, dear Dorothy, so the evil time is near at hand. But if you're quite sure your fairy friends will give you a home, it will be best for you to go to them, as your aunt says." That was why Dorothy went to her little room in the attic that afternoon, taking with her a small dog named Toto. And the dog had curly black hair and big brown eyes and loved Dorothy very dearly. The child had kissed her uncle and aunt affectionately before she went upstairs, and now she looked around her little room rather wistfully, gazing at the simple trinkets and worn calico and gingham dress. As if they were old friends, she was tempted at first to make a bundle of them. Yet she knew very well that they would be of no use to her in her future life. She sat down upon the broken-backed chair, and the only one the room contained, and holding Toto in her arms, waited patiently until the clock struck 4. Then she made the secret signal that had been agreed upon between her and Ozma. Uncle Henry and Aunt Em waited downstairs. They were uneasy and a good deal excited, for this is practical humdrum world, and it seemed to them quite impossible that their little niece could vanish from her home and travel instantly to Fairyland. So they watched the stairs, which seemed to be the only way Dorothy could get in and out of the farmhouse, and they watched them a long time. They heard the clock strike 4, but there was no sound from above. 4:30 came, and now they were too impatient to wait any longer. Softly they crept up the stairs to the door of the little girl's room. "Dorothy! Dorothy!" they called. There was no answer. They opened the door and looked, and the room was empty. She did it. "LB, how's it going, fam? It's good to see you." "Ryan Tran, it's good to see you, fam." "Pokey Girl Jessie." "Hello, I hope you had an amazing day." "Team Missions, what's going on? It's good to see you." "ALB, coming into the Spirit Clan. Appreciate you, fam." "Appreciate you, fam. Your support means everything, man, and I personally thank you for helping me get there." "Always good to see you. Congrats on. Oh, I appreciate that. You are not too far behind me, Missions. You got this, man. You got this. And Jesse, it's always good to see you. It was always good to see you. I'm glad I could help put you to sleep. When does gifting memberships happen? Ooh, that's so close. It's available now. Get your Mimikyu. Get your super chats, get your members, get your supers here. That's so close, Mishins. That's so close, everybody. If you haven't, I'm pretty sure everybody here is, but Team Mishins, I'll start throwing you on during the day. You're right there, man, and your content is genuine and original. And yeah, keep going. Don't stop. No shot. Team Missions just sniped that membership from ALB. Appreciate the love, ALB. Appreciate that, man. Right there. Yo, you got it. 1,500 left. Yo, that's so close. That's halfway there. And then Mission's got the membership. That's so funny. That's so funny. It's always good when you can gift it to somebody intentional. Of course, I've gifted myself memberships before, so that happens. No, man, this is so surreal. I appreciate you guys so very much. Well, it seems like the stories are connected a little bit. So first we went to the Gnome King, and then Dorothy, who is now using the belt to get back to Oz. Yeah, that's quite interesting. I have no idea where this is going. And that last chapter was a little bit touching, with Uncle Henry and Aunt Em being so old and not being able to work. So ALB, the real MVP. You are not wrong. Got 11 mighty readers in here as we get into chapter 3. How Ozma granted Dorothy's request. I suppose you have read so much about the magnificent Emerald City that there is little need for me to describe it here. It is the capital city of the Land of Oz, which is justly considered the most attractive and delightful fairyland in all the world. The Emerald City is built of all beautiful marbles, in which are set a profusion of emeralds, every one exquisitely cut and of very great size. There are other jewels used in the decorations inside the houses and palaces, such as rubies, diamonds, sapphires, amethyst, and turquoise. But in the streets and upon the outside of the buildings, only emeralds appear, from which circumstance the place is named the Emerald City of Oz. It has 9,654 buildings, in which lived 57,318 people up to the time of my story. All the surrounding country, extending to the borders of the desert, which enclosed it on every side, was full and pretty and comfortable farmhouses, in which resided those inhabitants of Oz who preferred country to city life. Although there were more than 500,000 people in the Land of Oz, although some of them, as you will soon learn, were not made of flesh and blood as we are, and every inhabitant of that favored country was happy and prosperous. No disease of any sort was ever known among the Ozites, and so no one ever died unless he met with an accident that prevented him from living. This happened very seldom indeed. There were no poor people in the Land of Oz because there was no such thing as money. And all property of all sort belonged to the ruler. The people were her children, and she cared for them. Each person was given freely by his neighbors whatever he required for his use, which is as much as anyone may reasonably desire. Some tilled the lands and raised great crops of grain, which was divided equally among the entire population, so that they all had enough. There were more tailors and dressmakers and shoemakers and the like, who made things that any who desired them might wear. Likewise, there were jewelers who made ornaments for the person which pleased and beautified the people, and these ornaments were also free to those who asked for them. Each man and woman, no matter what he or she produced for the good of the community, was supplied by the neighbors with food and clothing, and a house and furniture and ornaments and games. If by chance the supply ever ran short, more was taken from the great storehouse of the ruler, where afterward filled up again when there was more of any article than the people ever needed. Everyone worked half the time and played half the time, and the people enjoyed the work as much as they did the play, because it is good to be occupied and to have something to do. There were no cruel overseers set to watch them, and no one to rebuke them or to find fault with them, so each one was proud to do all he could for his friends and neighbors, and was glad when they would accept the things they produced. You will know by what I have here told you that the land of Oz was a remarkable country. I do not suppose such an arrangement would be practical with us, but Dorothy assures me that it works finely in the Oz people. Oz being a fairy country, the people were, of course, fairy people, but that does not mean all of them were very unlike the people of our own world. There were all sorts of queer characters among them, but not a single one who was evil, or who possessed a selfish or violent nature. They were peaceful, kind-hearted, loving, and merry, and every inhabitant adored the beautiful girl who ruled them, and delighted to obey her every command. In spite of all I've said, in a general way, there is some parts of the land of Oz not quite pleasant as the farming country and the Emerald City, which was the center. Far away in the South Country, there lived, in the mountains, a band of strange people called the Hammerheads, because they have no arms and use their flat heads to pound anyone who come near. Their necks were like rubber, so that they could shoot out their heads to quite a distance and afterwards draw them back again into their shoulders. The Hammerheads were called the Wild People, but never harmed any but those who disturbed them in the mountains where they lived. In some of the defense forests, there lived great beasts of every sort. In some of the dense forests, there lived great beasts of every sort, yet these were, for the most part, harmless and even sociable, and conversed agreeably with those who visited their haunts. The Kalidas, beasts with bodies like bears and heads like tigers, had once been fierce and bloodthirsty, but even they were now nearly all tamed, although at times one or another of them would get cross and disagreeable. Not so tame were the fighting trees, which had a forest of their own. If anyone approached them from these curious trees, would bend down their branches, twine them around their intruders, and hurl them away. But these unpleasant things existed only in a few remote parts of the land of Oz. I suppose every country has some drawbacks, so even this almost perfect fairyland could not be quite perfect. Once there had been wicked witches in the land too, but now these had all been destroyed. So as I said, only peace and happiness reigned in Oz. For some time, Ozma had ruled over this fair country, and never was ruler more popular or beloved. She is said to be the most beautiful girl in all the world has ever known, and her heart and mind are as lovely as her person. Dorothy Gale had several times visited the Emerald City and experienced adventures in the land of Oz, so that she and Ozma had now become firm friends. The girl ruler had even made Dorothy a princess of Oz, and had often implored her to come to Ozma's stately palace and live there always, but Dorothy had been loyal to her Aunt Em and Uncle Henry, who had cared for her since she was a baby. And she refused to leave them because she knew they would be lonely without her. However, Dorothy now realized that things were going to be different with her aunt and uncle from this time forth, so after giving the matter deep thought, she decided to ask Ozma to grant her a very great favor. A few seconds after she made the secret signal in her little bedchamber, the Kansas girl was seated in a lovely room in Ozma's palace in the Emerald City of Oz. When the first loving kisses of the embraces had been exchanged, the fair ruler inquired, "What is the matter, dear? I know something unpleasant has happened to you, for your face is very sober when I saw it in my magic picture. And whenever you signal me to transport you to this safe place, where you are always welcome, I know you are in danger or trouble." Dorothy sighed. "This time, Ozma, it isn't I," she replied. "But it's worse, I guess, for Uncle Henry and Aunt Em are in a heap of trouble, and there seems to be no way for them to get out of it. Anyhow, not while they live in Kansas." "Tell me about it, Dorothy," said Ozma, with ready sympathy. "Why, you see, Uncle Henry is poor, for the farm in Kansas doesn't amount to much, as farms go. So one day, Uncle Henry borrowed some money and wrote a letter saying that if he didn't pay it back, they could take his farm for the pay. Of course, he expected to pay some by making money from the farm, but he just couldn't. And so they're going to take the farm, and Uncle Henry and Aunt Em won't have a place to live. They're pretty old to do much work, Ozma. So I'll have to work for them unless... Ozma had been thoughtful during the story, but now she smiled and pressed her little friend's hand. Unless what, dear? She asked. Dorothy hesitated, because her request meant so much to all of them. Well, she said, I'd like to live here in the land of Oz, where you often invited me to live. But I can't, unless Uncle Henry and Aunt Em could live here too. Of course not, exclaimed the ruler of Oz, laughing gaily. So in order to get you, little friend, we must invite your uncle and aunt to live in Oz also. Oh, will you, Ozma? Cried Dorothy, clasping her chubby little hands eagerly. Will you bring them here with the magic belt and give them a nice little farm in the Munchkin country or in the Winky country or some other place? To be sure, answered Ozma, full of joy at the chance to please her little friend. I have long been thinking of this very thing, dear Dorothy dear, and often I have had in mind to propose it to you. I am sure your uncle and aunt must be good and worthy people, or you would not love them so much. And for your friends, Princess, there is always room in the land of Oz. Dorothy was delighted, yet not altogether surprised, for she had clung to the hope that Ozma would be kind enough to grant her request. When indeed, had her powerful and faithful friend refused her anything. But you must not call me Princess, she said, for after this I shall live on the little farm with Uncle Henry and Aunt Em, and princesses ought to not live on farms. Princess Dorothy will not, replied Ozma with her sweet smile. You are going to live in your own rooms in this palace and be my constant companion. But Uncle Henry, began Dorothy. Oh, he is old and has worked enough in his lifetime, interrupted the girl ruler. So we must find a place for your uncle and aunt where they will be comfortable and happy and need not work more than they care to. When shall we transport them here, Dorothy? I promised to go see them again before they were turned out of the farmhouse, answered Dorothy. So perhaps next Saturday? But why wait so long? Asked Ozma. And why make the journey back to Kansas again? Let us surprise them and bring them here without any warning. I'm not sure that they believe in the land of Oz, said Dorothy, though I've told them about it lots of times. They'll believe when they see it, declared Ozma. And if they are told they are to make a magical journey to our fairyland, it may make them nervous. I think the best way will be to use our magic belt without warning them, and when they arrive you can explain to them whatever they do not understand. Perhaps that's best, decided Dorothy. There isn't much use in their staying at the farm until they are put out, because it's much nicer here. Then tomorrow morning they shall come here, said Princess Ozma. I will order Jellia Jam, who is the palace housekeeper, to have rooms all prepared for them, and after breakfast we will get the magic belt, and by its aid transport your uncle and aunt to the Emerald City. Thank you, Ozma, cried Dorothy, kissing her friend gratefully. And now, Ozma proposed, let us take a walk in the gardens before we dress for dinner. Come, dear Dorothy. Well, that was awfully nice. Sees this before the timer runs out. Oh, just as the timer runs out. That's okay. Jesse sending a membership. I appreciate that. Mishin sending 5. Let's go. Team Mishins. Trifecta dono complete. Love you, brother, and congrats on getting there. ALB, man, I could not have done it without you. I super appreciate you coming in with the 5. Mishins and ALB. Mishins 5 gifted going out to Pokegirl Jesse, Kitty O'Gain, Emmanuel Marias, Antalgic, Stafford 5150. I appreciate that, Mishin, so much. Thank you for that. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, that's insane. And so many good snipes on that one, too. And Pokegirl Jesse coming out with one. Hoping one would go to Alec, yeah. Whoa. I'm so sorry. I get so into it. Alec, we need you green too. Dude, I was just about to buy my own. That was... Well, pay it forward. You could pay it forward. Oh, there it is. You did. And it went to newbie. Mean Girls, you can't sit with the... No, Alec, you are definitely welcome here. This bank says I'm tired, boss. The gray name wants to talk. Man, there's so much happening. Yeah, I can always look at it too. Thanks for the heads up. Ancient Mew sending a gifted membership. B-Dub sniping it. Incredible. I appreciate that, man. You guys bring a tear to my eyes, what you're doing. Alice! What's going on, Alice? I see you. I see you, Alice. Ancient Mew, thank you. Skyrim is pretty good. Skyrim. Alec the Gray. That's funny. It is a good it is a good game. Whew, I think I caught up with everybody. I'm sorry. I'll try and get a lot better at that. I appreciate you, Alice. I do. Thank you for that and popping in, even if but for a second. Alec the Gray name might be a meme on my channel. But remember, it could turn into Alec the White really quick. You're good, Kev. We enjoy the story. Oh, I appreciate you. Oh, I know. Great story so far, right? Pretty good story. With I never imagined that Ozma or any of the Ozites would be okay with bringing in the outside world, but add Jesse and Missions if you do it. Oh, no, I didn't. Nor do I think I will. That's something I'll explain on Thursday, though. Maybe Thursday we'll get into it. Yeah, we'll get into it on Thursday. Puppet show. You'll have to see exactly what that is. 16 of you still sitting in here with me reading. Puppet show. Yeah. Oh, you'll love it. Off to bed, just wanted to stop in and say, hey, everyone, congrats on your membership. I appreciate that, Kev. I hope you have a good rest of your night, man. Thanks for popping in. And, yeah, we'll see you next time. Keep grinding, man. Keep doing what you're doing. Kev takeover, indeed. Okay, I'll put some thought into it. Evolve Trades. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate that too. I will do just that. You guys give me so much support and motivation to keep doing what I'm doing and being myself. So, no, I really appreciate that. And likewise. While we get into chapter 4. Wednesday, so you can walk me through Saturday. Yeah, absolutely, man. Dagger did a cool comic one. Oh, interesting. I'll have to check it out. Chapter 4. So hoping nobody caught it. Yeah, we're going to try and get him. Well, he has. He has gone live. So yeah, everybody go sub up to Catch 'em All Kev. Number chapter 4. That's funny. Had a nice ring. It did, didn't it? Number chapter 4. How the Gnome King planned revenge. So it looks like we get to see both sides of the story here, and I'm all for it. I'm all for it. The reason most people are bad is because they do not try to be good. Now, the Gnome King had never tried to be good, so he was very bad indeed. Having decided to conquer the land of Oz and to destroy the Emerald City and enslave all its people, King Roquat the Red kept planning ways to do this dreadful thing. And the more he planned, the more he believed he would be able to accomplish it. About the time Dorothy went to Ozma, the Gnome King called his chief steward to him and said, "Calico, I think I shall make you the general of my armies." "I think you won't," replied Calico positively. "Why not?" inquired the king, reaching for his scepter with the big sapphire. "Because I'm your chief steward and know nothing of warfare," said Calico, preparing to dodge if anything were thrown at him. "I manage all the affairs of your kingdom better than you could yourself, and you'll never find another steward as good as I am. But there are 100 gnomes better fitted to command your army, and your generals get thrown away so often that I have no desire to be one of them." "Ah, there is some truth to your remarks, Calico," remarked the king, deciding not to throw the scepter. "Summon my army to assemble in the great cavern." Calico bowed and retired, and in a few minutes returned to say that the army was assembled. So the king went out to the balcony that overlooked the great cavern, where 50,000 gnomes, all armed with swords and pikes, stood, marshaled in military array. When they were not required as soldiers, all these gnomes were metalworkers and miners, and they had hammered so much at the forges and dug so hard with pick and shovel that they had acquired great muscular strength. They were strangely formed creatures, rather round and not very tall. Their toes were curly and their ears broad and flat. In time of war, every gnome left his forge or mine and became part of the great army of King Roquat. The soldiers wore rock-colored uniforms and were excellently drilled. The king looked upon this tremendous army, which stood silently arrayed before him, and a crude smile curled the corners of his mouth, for he saw that his legions were very powerful. Then he addressed them from the balcony, saying, "I've thrown away General Blug because he did not please me, so I want another general to command this army. Who is the next in command?" "I am," replied Colonel Crinkle, a dapper-looking gnome, as he stepped forward to salute his monarch. The king looked at him carefully, and said, "I want you to march this army through an underground tunnel, which I am going to bore to the Emerald City of Oz. When you get there, I want you to conquer the Oz people, destroy them and their city, and bring all their gold and silver and precious stones back to my cavern. Also, you are to recapture my magic belt and return it to me. Will you do this, General Crinkle?" "No, your majesty," replied the gnome, "for it can't be done." "Oh, indeed," exclaimed the king. Then he turned to his servants and said, "Please take General Crinkle to the torture chamber. There you will kindly slice him into thin slices. Afterward, you may feed him to the 7-headed dogs." "Anything you oblige, your majesty," replied the servants politely, and led the condemned man away. When they had gone, the king addressed the army again. "Listen," he said. "The general who is to command my armies must promise to carry out my orders. If he fails, he will share the fate of poor Crinkle. Now, then, who will volunteer to lead my host to the Emerald City?" For a time, no one moved, and all were silent. Then an old gnome with white whiskers so long that they were tied around his waist to prevent them tripping him up, stepped out of the ranks and saluted the king. "I'd like to ask you a few questions, your majesty," he said. "Go ahead," replied the king. "These Oz people are quite good, are they not?" "As good as apple pie," said the king. "And they are happy, I suppose," continued the old gnome. "Happy as the day is long," said the king. "And contented and prosperous?" inquired the gnome. Very much so, said the king. Well, your majesty, remarked he of the white whiskers, I think I should like to undertake the job, so I'll be your general. I hate good people. I detest happy people. I'm opposed to anyone who is contented or prosperous. That is why I am so fond of your majesty. Make me your general, and I promise to conquer and destroy the Oz people. If I fail, I am ready to be sliced thin and fed to seven-headed dogs. Very good indeed. That's the way to talk, cried Roquat the Red, who was greatly pleased. What is your name, general? I'm called Guff, your majesty. Well, Guff, come with me to my private cave and we'll talk it over. Then he returned to the army. Gnomes and soldiers, he said, you are to obey the commands of General Guff until he becomes dog-fed. Any man who fails to obey his new general will be promptly thrown away. You are now dismissed. Guff went to the king's private cave and sat down upon the amethyst chair and put his feet on the arm of the king's ruby throne. Then he lighted his pipe and threw a live coal he had taken from his pocket upon the king's left foot and puffed the smoke into the king's eye and made himself comfortable. For he was a wise old gnome, and he knew that the best way to get along with Roquat the Red was to show him that he was not afraid of him. I'm ready for the talk, your majesty, he said. The king coughed and looked at his new general fiercely. Do you not tremble to take such liberties with your monarch? He asked. Oh, no, replied Guff calmly, and he blew a wreath of smoke that curled around the king's nose and made him sneeze. You want to conquer the Emerald City, and I'm the only gnome in all of your dominion who can conquer it. So you will be very careful not to hurt me until I have carried out your wishes. After that... Well, what then? Inquired the king. Then you will be so grateful to me that you won't care to hurt me, replied the general. That is a very good argument, said Roquat. But suppose you fail. Then it's the slicing machine. I agree to that, announced Guff. But if you do as I tell you, there will be no failure. The trouble with you, Roquat, is that you don't think carefully enough. I do. You would go ahead and march through your tunnel into Oz and get defeated and driven back. I won't. And the reason I won't is because when I march, I'll have my plans made and the host of allies to assist my gnomes. What do you mean by that? Asked the king. I'll explain, King Roquat. You are going to attack a fairy country, and a mighty fairy country too. They haven't much of an army in Oz, but the princess who ruled them has a fairy wand, and a little girl named Dorothy has your magic belt. And at the north end of the Emerald City lives a clever sorceress called Glinda the Good, who commands the spirits of the air. Also, I have heard that there is a wonderful wizard in Ozma's palace who is so skilled that people used to pay him money in America to see him perform. So you see, it will be no use a thing to overcome all of this magic. We have 50,000 soldiers, cried the king proudly. Yes, but they are gnomes, remarked Guff, taking a silk handkerchief from the king's pocket and wiping his own pointed shoe with it. Gnomes are immortals, but they are not strong on magic. When you lost your famous belt, the greater part of your own power was gone from you. Against Ozma, you and your gnomes would have no show at all. Roquat's eyes flashed angrily. Then away you go to the slicing machine, he cried. Not yet, said the general, filling his pipe from the king's private tobacco pouch. What do you propose to do? Asked the monarch. I propose to obtain the power we need, answered Guff. There are a good many evil creatures who have magic powers sufficient to destroy and conquer the land of Oz. We will get them on our side, band them all together, and then take Ozma and her people by surprise. It's all very simple and easy when you know how. Alone, we should be helpless to injure the ruler of Oz, but with the aid of the evil powers we can summon, we shall easily succeed. King Roquat was delighted with this idea, for he realized how clever it was. Surely, Guff, you are the greatest general I've ever had, he exclaimed, his eyes sparkling with joy. You must go at once to make arrangements with the evil powers to assist us. And meantime, I'll begin to dig the tunnel. I thought you'd agree with me, Roquat, replied the new general. I'll start this very afternoon to visit the chief of the Whimsies. Not the Whimsies. Whew. Stafford, how's it going? Alec the Grey Name got done peasant dishes work. Yeah, absolutely. We had a daughter, so I'm not sure if I'll be able to make it, but I'll try to come in. It's not bad. It's not bad. ALB is not a bad mentor either. Let's go and get made French bread sandwich for dinner. Okay, spoiler alert. The Pokey Ghost is hungry, but I will eat after stream. Just taking a look at some of these here. You're absolutely right, I did. That's my bad. Man, I want a sandwich all of a sudden, right? Kev got paid. Hey, go Spencer. How's it going? Yeah, that happened today. That happened today. I forgot to eat lunch. Missions. Don't do that, man. I'm hypoglycemic, so when I forget to eat, it can be a little bad. All right. Oh. You know, I don't know if there's Jack in the Box where you're at, Alec, but Jack in the Box has got some pretty mean, like, grilled cheese breakfast toasters. They're really good. Oh, well, I understand that. And then you jump right into editing and you continue to forget until dinner. At least I do. All right, y'all, let's get into chapter 5. I think Alec the Gray Name wants to grab a pail and clean the oat house. Alec, it'll happen. It'll happen. And you guys need to eat and drink because you will pass out. Burger King has some good croissant. You're not wrong. The croissant ones are pretty good from Burger King. And what's better is I get it my way. Chapter 5. How Dorothy Became a Princess. When the people of the Emerald City heard that Dorothy had returned to them, everyone was eager to see her. For the little girl was a general favorite in the land of Oz. From time to time, some of the folks of the great outside world had found their way into this fairyland, but all except one had been companions of Dorothy, and had turned out to be very agreeable people. The exception I speak of was the wonderful Wizard of Oz, a sleight-of-hand performer from Omaha who went up in a balloon and was carried by a current of air to the Emerald City. His queer and puzzling tricks made the people of Oz believe him a great wizard for a time, and he ruled over them until Dorothy arrived on her first visit and showed the wizard to be a mere humbug. He was a gentle, kind-hearted little man, and Dorothy grew to like him afterward. When, after an absence, the wizard returned to the land of Oz, Ozma received him graciously and gave him a home in a part of her palace. In addition to the wizard, 2 other personages from the outside world had been allowed to make their home in the Emerald City. The first was a quaint, shaggy man, whom Ozma made the governor of the royal storehouses, and the second, a yellow hen named Billina, who had a fine house in the gardens back of the palace, where she looked after a large family. Both these had been old comrades of Dorothy, so you see the little girl was quite an important personage of Oz, and the great people thought she had brought them good luck, and loved her next best to Ozma. During her several visits, this little girl had been the means of destroying 2 wicked witches who oppressed the people, and she had discovered a live scarecrow who was now one of the most popular personages in all of the fairy country. With the scarecrow's help, she had rescued Nick Chopper, a tin woodman, who had rusted in a lonely forest, and the Tin Man is now the emperor of the country of the Winkies. And so much beloved because of his kind heart. No wonder the people thought Dorothy had brought them good luck. Yet, strange as it may seem, she had accomplished all these wonders not because she was a fairy or had any magical powers, whatever, but because she was the simple, sweet, and true little girl who was honest to herself and to all whom she met. In this world, in which we live simplicity and kindness are the only magic wands that work wonders. And in the land of Oz, Dorothy found these same qualities had won for her the love and admiration of the people. Indeed, the little girl had made many warm friends in this fairy country, and the only real grief of the Ozites had ever experienced was when Dorothy left them and returned to her Kansas home. Now she received a joyful welcome, although no one except Ozma knew at first that she had finally come to stay for good and all. That evening, Dorothy had many callers, and among them were such important people as Tick-Tock, the machine man who thought and spoke and moved by clockwork, her old companion and General Shaggy Man, Jack Pumpkinhead, whose body was brushwood and whose head was a ripe pumpkin with a face carved upon it, the Cowardly Lion, and the Hungry Tiger, two beasts from the forest who served Princess Ozma, the Professor H.M. Wogglebug T.E. This Wogglebug was a remarkable creature. He had once been a tiny little bug crawling around in a schoolroom, but he was discovered and highly magnified so that he could be seen more plainly, and while in this magnified condition, he had escaped. He had always remained big, and he dressed like a dandy, and was so full of knowledge and information, which are distinct acquirements, that he had been made a professor and the head of the Royal College. Dorothy had a nice visit with these old friends, and also talked a long time with the wizard, who was a little old man and withered and dried up, but as merry and active as a child. Afterward, she went to see Billina's fast-growing family of chicks. Toto, Dorothy's little black dog, also met with a cordial reception. Toto was an especial friend of the Shaggy Man, and he knew everyone else. Being the only dog in the land of Oz, he was highly respected by the people, who believed animals entitled to every consideration if they behaved themselves properly. Dorothy had 4 lovely rooms in the palace, which were always reserved for her use and were called Dorothy's rooms. These consisted of a beautiful sitting room, a dressing room, a dainty bedchamber, and a big marble bathroom. And in these rooms were everything that heart could desire, placed there with loving thoughtfulness by Ozma for her little friend's use. The royal dressmakers had the little girl's measure, so they kept the closets in her dressing room filled with lovely dresses of every description and suitable for every occasion. No wonder Dorothy had refrained from bringing with her old calico and gingham dresses. Here, everything that was dear to the little girl's heart was supplied in profusion, and nothing so rich and beautiful could ever have been found in the biggest department stores in America. Of course, Dorothy enjoyed all these luxuries, and the only reason she had therefore preferred to live in Kansas was because her uncle and aunt loved her and needed her with them. Now, however, all was to be changed, and Dorothy was really more delighted to know that her dear relatives were to share in her good fortune and enjoy the delights of the land of Oz. Then she was to possess such luxury for herself. Next morning, at Ozma's request, Dorothy dressed herself in a pretty sky blue gown of rich silk trimmed with real pearls. The buckles of her shoes were set with pearls too, and more of these priceless gems were on a lovely coronet which she wore upon her forehead. "For," said her friend Ozma, "from this time forth, my dear, you must assume your rightful rank as Princess of Oz, and being my chosen companion, you must dress in a way befitting the dignity of your position." Dorothy agreed to this, although she knew that neither gowns nor jewels could make her anything less than the simple, unaffected little girl she had always been. As soon as they had breakfast, the girls eating together in Ozma's pretty boudoir, the ruler of Oz said, "Now, dear friend, we will use the magic belt to transport your uncle and aunt from Kansas to the Emerald City, but I think it would be fitting in receiving such distinguished guests for us to sit in my throne room." "Oh, they're not very distinguished, Ozma," said Dorothy. "They're just plain people like me." "Being your friends and relatives, Princess Dorothy, they are certainly distinguished," replied the ruler with a smile. They won't hardly know what to make of all your splendid furniture and things," protested Dorothy gravely. It may scare them to see your grand throne room, and perhaps we'd better go into the backyard, Ozma, where the cabbages grow and the chickens are playing. Then it would seem more natural to Uncle Henry and Aunt Em." "No, they shall first see me in my throne room," replied Ozma decidedly. And when she spoke in that tone, Dorothy knew it was not wise to oppose her, for Ozma was accustomed to having her own way. So together they went to the throne room, an immense domed chamber in the center of the palace, where stood the royal throne, made of solid gold and encrusted with enough precious stones to stock a dozen jewelry stores in our country. Ozma, who was wearing the magic belt, seated herself in the throne, and Dorothy sat at her feet. In the room were assembled many ladies and gentlemen of the court, clothed in rich apparel and wearing fine jewels. Two immense animals squatted, one on each side of the throne, the Cowardly Lion and the Hungry Tiger. In a balcony high up in the dome, an orchestra played sweet music, and beneath the dome 2 electric fountains sent sprays of colored perfumed water shooting up nearly as high as the arch ceiling. "Are you ready, Dorothy?" asked the ruler. "I am," replied Dorothy, "but I don't know whether Aunt Em and Uncle Henry are ready." "That won't matter," declared Ozma. "The old life they have very little to interest them, and the sooner they begin the new life here, the happier they will be. Here they come, my dear." As she spoke, there before the throne appeared Uncle Henry and Aunt Em, who for a moment stood motionless, glaring with white and startled faces at the scene that confronted them. If the ladies and gentlemen present had not been so polite, I am sure they would have laughed at the strangers. Aunt Em had her calico dress skirt tucked up, and she wore a faded blue checkered apron. Her hair was rather scraggly, and she had on a pair of Uncle Henry's old slippers. In one hand she held a dish towel, and the other a cracked earthenware plate, which she had been engaged in wiping when so suddenly transported to the land of Oz. Uncle Henry, when the summons came, he had been out in the barn doing chores. He wore a ragged and much soiled straw hat, a checkered shirt without any collar, and blue overalls tucked into the tops of his old cowhide boots. "By gum!" gasped Uncle Henry, looking around as if bewildered. "Well, I swain!" gurgled Aunt Em in a hoarse, frightened voice. Then her eyes fell upon Dorothy, and she said, Don't look at our little girl. Don't that look like our little girl, our Dorothy Henry?" "Hi there! Look out, Em!" exclaimed the old man as Aunt Em advanced a step. "Take care, all the wild beasties, or you're a goner." But now Dorothy sprang forward and embraced and kissed her aunt and uncle affectionately, afterward taking their hands in her own. "Don't be afraid," she said to them. "You're now in the land of Oz, where you will live always and be comfortable and happy. You'll never have to worry over anything again, because there won't be anything to worry about. And you owe it all to the kindness of my friend Princess Ozma." Here she led them before the throne and continued, "Your Highness, this is Uncle Henry, and this is Aunt Em. They want to thank you for bringing them here from Kansas." Aunt Em tried to slick her hair, and she hid the dish towel and dish under her apron while she bowed to the lovely Ozma. Uncle Henry took off his straw hat and held it awkwardly in his hands. But the ruler of Oz rose and came from her throne to greet her newly arrived guest, and she smiled as sweetly upon them as if they had been a king and queen. "You're very welcome here, where I've brought you for Princess Dorothy's sake," she said graciously, "and I hope you will be quite happy in your new home." Then she turned to her courtiers, who were silently and gravely regarding the scene, and added, "I present to my people our Princess Dorothy's beloved Uncle Henry and Aunt Em, who are hereafter be subjects of our kingdom. It will please me to have you show them every kindness and honor in your power, and to join me in making them happy and contented." Hearing this, all those assembled bowed low and respectful to the old farmer and his wife, who bobbed their own heads in return. "And now," said Ozma to them, "Dorothy will show you to the rooms prepared for you. I hope you will like them, and shall expect you to join me at luncheon." So Dorothy led her relatives away, and as soon as they were out of the throne room and alone in the corridor, Aunt Em squeezed Dorothy's hand and said, Child, how in the world did we ever get here so quick? And is it all real? And are we to stay here, as she says? And what does it all mean, anyhow?" Dorothy laughed. "Why don't you tell us what you're going to do?" inquired Uncle Henry, reproachfully. "If I'd have known it, I'd have put on my Sunday clothes." I'll explain everything as soon as we get to your rooms, promised Dorothy. You're in great luck, Uncle Henry and Aunt Em, and so am I. And oh, I'm so happy to have you here. As he walked by the little girl's side, Uncle Henry stroked his whiskers thoughtfully. Appears to me, Dorothy, we won't make bang-up fairies, he remarked. And my back here looks like a fright, wailed Aunt Em. Never mind, returned the little girl reassuringly. You won't have anything to do now but to look pretty, Aunt Em, and Uncle Henry won't have to work till his back aches, that's certain. Sure? They asked wonderingly, and in the same breath. Of course I'm sure, said Dorothy. You're in the fairyland of Oz now, and what's more, you belong to it. I don't know if I'd like to belong to it, but that was nice. Go, Spencer! Maybe if I was a mod, I could create a link. Go to Safari and look up Kev. We bully Alec into getting a membership. I really hope not. I will make ALB a mod under one condition, and he knows that condition. But that's only if he wants to be, because I also know that sometimes people just like to come and chill and not have to worry about modding and grabbing stuff. May still know how to get membership. PSA 0. I hope you're doing well. Everyone trying to help out. Yes, and I will certainly, on Thursday, I will bring the link with me so that anybody on I know the iPhone, it gets a little weird. It's not just right there. You have to actually go to the website. But I super appreciate that. Go, Spencer. You're from Kansas? Get out of here. I didn't know that. Wichita. Excellent. Other option might be to switch to desktop mode on the iPhone, just being desktop. Yeah, that is another option. All right. So Kindle's at 34%. We have 8 chapters to go. Or, I'm sorry, 3 chapters to go. That's Kansas State, not Kansas City. Yeah, you got it. All right. Let's get into Chapter 6, How the Guff Visited the Whimsies, who I don't remember from our travels so far, the Whimsies. The new general of the Gnome King's army knew perfectly well that to fail in his plans meant death for him. Yet he was not at all anxious or worried. He hated everyone who was good and longed to make all who were happy unhappy. Therefore, he had accepted this dangerous position as general quite willingly, feeling sure in his evil mind that he would be able to do a lot of mischief and finally conquer the land of Oz. Yet Guff determined to be careful, and to lay his plans well as to not fail. He argued that only careless people fail in what they attempted to do. The mountains underneath which the Gnome King's extensive caverns were located lay grouped just north of the land of Ev, which lay directly across the deadly desert to the east of the land of Oz. As the mountains were also on the edge of the desert, the Gnome King found that he had only to tunnel underneath the desert to reach Ozma's dominions. He did not wish his armies to appear above ground in this country of the Winkies, which was also a part of the land of Oz nearest to the King Roquat's own country, as then the people would give the alarm to enable Ozma to fortify the Emerald City and assemble an army. He wanted to take all of Oz people by surprise. So he decided to run the tunnel clear through to the Emerald City, where he and his hosts could break through the ground without warning and conquer the people before they had time to defend themselves. Roquat the Red began to work at once upon his tunnel, setting 1,000 miners at the task and building it high and broad enough for his armies to march through it with ease. The gnomes were used to making tunnels, as all the kingdoms in which they lived was underground, so they made rapid progress. While this work was going on, General Guff started out alone to visit the chief of the Whimsies. These Whimsies were curious people who lived in the retired country of their own. They had large, strong bodies, but heads so small that they were no bigger than doorknobs. Of course, such tiny heads could not contain any great amount of brains, and the Whimsies were so ashamed of their personal appearance and lack of common sense that they wore big heads made of pasteboard, which they fastened over their own little heads. On these pasteboard heads they sewed sheep's wool for hair, and the wool was colored many tints, pink, green, lavender being the favorite colors. The faces of these false heads were painted in many ridiculous ways, according to the whims of their owners, and these big, burly creatures looked so whimsical and absurd in their queer masks that they were called Whimsies. They foolishly imagined that no one would suspect their little heads that were inside the imitation ones, not knowing that it is folly to try to appear otherwise than as nature has made us. The chief of the Whimsies had as little wisdom as the others, and had been chosen chief merely because none among them was any wiser or more capable of ruling. The Whimsies were evil spirits and could not be killed. They were hated and feared by everyone and were known as terrible fighters because they were so strong and muscular and had not sense enough to know when they were defeated. General Guff thought the Whimsies would be great help to the gnomes in the conquest of Oz, for under his leadership they could be induced to fight as long so they could stand up. So he traveled to their country and asked to see the chief, who lived in a house that had a picture of a grotesque false head painted over the doorway. The chief's false head had blue hair and turned-up nose, and a mouth that stretched half across his face. Big green eyes had been painted on it, but in the center of the chin were two small holes made in the pasteboard, so that the chief could see through them with his own tiny eyes. For when the big head was fastened upon his shoulders, the eyes in his own natural head were on a level with the false chin. Said General Guff to the chief of the Whimsies, "We gnomes are going to conquer the land of Oz and capture our king's magic belt, which the Oz people stole from him. Then we are going to plunder and destroy the whole country, and we want the Whimsies to help us." "Will there be any fighting?" asked the chief. "Plenty," replied Guff. That must have pleased the chief, for he got up and danced around the room 3 times. Then he seated himself again, adjusted his false head, and said, "We have no quarrel with Ozma of Oz. But you Whimsies love to fight, and here's the splendid chance to do so," urged Guff. "Wait till I sing a song," said the chief. Then he lay back in his chair and sang a foolish song that did not seem to the general to mean anything, although he listened carefully, and when he had finished, the chief Whimsy looked at him through the holes in his chin and asked, "What reward will you give us if we help you?" The general was prepared for this question, for he had been thinking the matter over on his journey. People often do a good deed without hope of reward, but for an evil deed they always demand payment. "When we get our magic belt," he made reply, "our king, Roquat the Red, will use its power to give every Whimsy a natural head as big and as fine as the false head that you now wear. Then you will no longer be ashamed because your big, strong bodies have such teeny-weeny heads." "Oh, you will do that?" asked the chief eagerly. "We surely will," promised the general. "I'll talk to my people," said the chief. So he called a meeting with all the Whimsies and told them of the offer made by the gnomes. The creatures were delighted with the bargain and at once agreed to fight for the Gnome King and help him to conquer Oz. One Whimsy alone seemed to have a glimmer of sense, for he said, "Suppose we fail to capture the magic belt. What will happen then? And what good will all our fighting do?" But they threw him into the river for asking foolish questions and laughed when the water ruined his pasteboard head before he could swim out again. So the compact was made, and General Guff was delighted with his success in gaining such powerful allies. But there were other people too, just as important as the Whimsies, whom the clever old gnome had determined to win to his side. Appreciate that, Al. Sweet. Appreciate that, y'all. I'm not, but I trust y'all. Otherwise, I wouldn't have modded you. Thanks, y'all. I appreciate you. That's all right. Signed over power of attorney. All right. We're just at about hour 40. And we have about 2 chapters left, so we're right at about mark. And I'm really happy I was able to start a little bit earlier tonight. Alec has run away. That's okay. They'll be back. Alec always comes back. Chapter 7, How Aunt Em Conquered a Lion. Okay. These are your rooms, said Dorothy, opening a door. Aunt Em drew back at the sight of the splendid furniture and draperies. Ain't there any place to wipe my feet? She asked. You will soon change your slippers for new shoes, said Dorothy. Don't be afraid, Aunt Em. Here is where you are to live, so walk right in and make yourself at home. Aunt Em advanced hesitatingly. It beats the Topeka Hotel, she cried admiringly. But this place is too grand for us, child. Can't we have some back room in the attic? That's more our class. No, said Dorothy, you've got to live here because Ozma says so. And all the rooms in this palace are just as fine as this. And some are better. It won't do any good to fuss, Aunt Em. You've got to be swell and high-toned in the land of Oz, whether you want to or not, so you might as well make up your mind to do it. That's hard luck, replied her aunt, looking around her with an odd expression. But folks can't get used to anything if they try, huh, Henry? Folks can get used to anything if they try, right, Henry? Why, as to that, said Uncle Henry slowly, I believe in taking what's provided us and asking no questions. I've traveled some, in my time, and you haven't, and that makes a difference between us. Then Dorothy showed them through the rooms. The first was a handsome sitting room with windows opening upon the rose gardens. Then came separate bedrooms for Aunt Em and Uncle Henry, with a fine bathroom between them. Aunt Em had a pretty dressing room besides, and Dorothy opened the closets and showed several exquisite costumes that had been provided for her aunt by the royal dressmakers, who had worked all night to get them ready. Everything that Aunt Em could possibly need was in the drawers and closets, and her dressing table was covered with engraved gold toilet articles. Uncle Henry had 9 suits of clothes cut in the popular Munchkin fashion, with knee breeches, silk stockings, and low shoes with jeweled buckles. The hats to match these costumes had pointed tops and wide brims with small gold bells around the edges. His shirts were all fine linen with frilled bosoms, and his vests were richly embroidered with colored silks. Uncle Henry decided that he would first take a bath and then dressed himself in the blue satin suit that had caught his fancy. He accepted his good fortune with calm composure and refused to have a servant assist him, but Aunt Em was all of the flutter, as she said, and it took Dorothy and Jellia Jam, the housekeeper, and 2 maids a long time to dress her up and do her hair and get her rigged up like a popinjay, as she quaintly expressed it. She wanted to stop and admire everything that caught her eye, and she sighed continually and declared that such finery was too good for an old countrywoman, and that she never thought she would have to put on airs at her time of life. Finally, she was dressed, and when she went to the sitting room, there was Uncle Henry in his blue satin, walking gravely up and down the room. He had trimmed his beard and mustache and looked very dignified and respectable. "Tell me, Dorothy," he said, "do all the men here wear duds like these?" "Yes," she replied. "All except the Scarecrow and the Shaggy Man, and of course the Tin Woodman and Tick-Tock, who are made of metal. You'll find all the men at Ozma's court dressed as you are, only perhaps a little finer." "Henry, you look like a play actor," announced Aunt Em, looking at her husband critically. "And you, Em, look more high-faultin' than a peacock," he replied. "I guess you're right," she said regretfully, "but we're helpless victims of high-toned royalty." Dorothy was much amused. "Come with me," she said, "and I'll show you around the palace." She took them through the beautiful rooms and introduced them to all the people they chanced to meet. Also, she showed them to her own pretty rooms, which were not far from their own. "So it's all true," said Aunt Em, wide-eyed with amazement, "and what Dorothy told us of this fairy country was plain facts instead of dreams. But where are all the strange creatures you used to know here?" "Yes, where's the Scarecrow?" inquired Uncle Henry. "Why, he's just now away on a visit to the Tin Woodman, who's the Emperor of the Winky Country," replied the little girl. "You'll see him when he comes back, and you're sure to like him." "And where's the wonderful wizard?" asked Aunt Em. "You'll see him at Ozma's luncheon, for he lives here in the palace," was the reply. "And Jack Pumpkinhead?" "Oh, he lives a little way out of town, in his own pumpkin field. We'll go there sometime and see him. And we'll call the Professor Wogglebug, too. The Shaggy Man will be at the luncheon, I guess, and Tick-Tock. And now I'll have to take you out and see Billina, who's in a house of her own." So they went into the backyard, and after walking along winding paths some distance through the beautiful gardens, they came to an attractive little house where the Yellow Hen sat on the front porch sunning herself. "Good morning, my dear mistress," called Billina, fluttering down to meet them. "I was expecting you to call, for I heard you had come back and brought your uncle and aunt with you." "We're here for good and all this time, Billina," cried Dorothy joyfully. "Uncle Henry and Aunt Em belong to Oz now as much as I do." "Then they are very lucky people," declared Billina, "for there couldn't be a nicer place to live. But come, my dear, I must show you all my Dorothys. 9 are living and have grown up to be very respectable hens, but one took cold at Ozma's birthday party and died of a pip, and the other 2 turned out to be horrid roosters, so I had to change their names from Dorothy to Daniel. They all had the letter D engraved upon their gold lockets, you remember, with your picture inside, and D stands for Daniel as well as Dorothy." "Did you call both the roosters Daniel?" asked Uncle Henry. "Yes, indeed. I've 9 Dorothys and 2 Daniels, and the 9 Dorothys have 86 sons and daughters, all over 300 grandchildren," said Billina proudly. "What names have you given them all, dear?" inquired the little girl. "Oh, they're all Dorothys and Daniels, some being juniors, some being double juniors. Dorothy and Daniel are 2 good names, and I see no object in hunting for others," declared the Yellow Hen. "But just think, Dorothy, what a big chicken family we've grown to be, and our numbers increase nearly every day. Ozma doesn't know what to do with all the eggs we lay, and we are never eaten or harmed in any way, as chickens are in your country. They give us everything to make us contented and happy. And I, my dear, am the acknowledged queen and governor of every chicken in Oz, because I am the oldest and started this whole colony." "You ought to be very proud, ma'am," said Uncle Henry, who was astonished to hear the hen talk so sensibly. "Oh, I am," she replied. "I have the lovingest pearl necklace you ever saw. Come in the house and I'll show it to you. And I have 9 leg bracelets and a diamond pin for each wing, but I only wear them on state occasion." They followed the Yellow Hen into the house, which Aunt Em declared was neat as a pin. They could not sit down, because all Billina's chairs were roosting poles made of silver, so they had to stand while the hen fussily showed them her treasure. Then they had to go to the back room occupied by Billina's 9 Dorothys and 2 Daniels, who were all plump yellow chickens and greeted the visitors very politely. It was easy to see that they were all bred, and that Billina all looked after their education. In the yards were all the children and grandchildren of these 11 elders, and they were all sizes, from well-grown hens to tiny chickens just out of the shell. About 50 fluffy yellow youngsters were at school being taught good manners and good grammar by a young hen who wore spectacles. They sang in chorus a patriotic song of the land of Oz in honor of their visitors, and Aunt Em was much impressed by these talking chickens. Dorothy wanted to stay and play with the young chickens for a while, but Uncle Henry and Aunt Em had not seen the palace grounds and gardens yet, and were eager to get better acquainted with the marvelous and delightful land which they were to live. "I'll stay here, and you can go for a walk," said Dorothy. "You'll be perfectly safe anyway, and may do whatever you want to. When you get tired, go back to the palace and find your rooms, and I'll come to you before the luncheon is ready." So Uncle Henry and Aunt Em started out alone to explore the grounds, and Dorothy knew that they couldn't get lost, because all the palace grounds were enclosed in a high wall of green marble set with emeralds. It was a rare treat to these simple folk who had lived in the country all their lives, known little enjoyment of any sort, to wear beautiful clothes and live in a palace and be treated with respect and consideration by all around them. They were very happy indeed as they strolled up the shady walks and looked upon the gorgeous flowers and shrubs, feeling that their new home was more beautiful than any tongue could describe. Suddenly, as they turned the corner and walked through a gap in the high hedge, they came face to face with an enormous lion, which crouched upon the green lawn and seemed surprised by their appearance. They stopped short, Uncle Henry trembling with horror and Aunt Em too terrified to scream. The next moment, the poor woman clasped her husband around the neck and cried, "Save me, Henry, save me!" "Can't even save myself, Em," he returned in a husky voice, "for the animal looks as if it could use both and then lick its chops for more. If only I had a gun." "Haven't you, Henry, haven't you?" she asked anxiously. "Nary gun, Em. So let's die as brave and graceful as we can. We knew our luck couldn't last." "I won't die. I won't be eaten by a lion," wailed Aunt Em, glaring upon the huge beast. Then a thought struck her, and she whispered, "Henry, I've heard a savage beast can be conquered by the human eye. I'll eye that lion out of countenance and save our lives." "Try it, Em," he returned, also in a whisper. "Look at him as you do me when I'm late to dinner." Aunt Em turned upon the lion in determined countenance, and a wild, dilated eye. She glared at this immense beast steadily, and the lion, who had been quietly blinking at them, began to appear uneasy and disturbed. "Is anything the matter, ma'am?" he asked in a mild voice. At this speech from the terrible beast, Aunt Em and Uncle Henry both were startled, and then Uncle Henry remembered that this must be the lion that they met in Ozma's throne room. "Hold on, Em," he exclaimed. "Quit that eagle-eye conquest and take courage. I guess this is the same cowardly lion Dorothy told us about." "Oh, is it?" she cried, much relieved. "When he spoke, I got the idea, and when he looked so ashamed like, I was sure of it," Uncle Henry continued, Aunt Em regarding the animal with new interest. "Are you the cowardly lion?" she inquired. "Are you Dorothy's friend?" "Yes'm," answered the lion meekly. "Dorothy and I are old chums and very fond of each other. I'm king of the beasts, you know, and the hungry tiger and I serve Princess Ozma as her bodyguards." "To be sure," said Aunt Em, nodding, "but the king of beasts shouldn't be cowardly." "I've heard that said before," remarked the lion, yawning till he showed two great rows of sharp white teeth. "But that doesn't keep me from being frightened whenever I go into battle." What do you do, run?" asked Uncle Henry. "No, that would be foolish, for the enemy would run after me," declared the lion. "So I tremble with fear and pitch in as hard as I can and go so far as I've always won my fight." As I can, and so far I've always won my fight." "Ah, I begin to understand," said Uncle Henry. "You were scared when I looked at you just now?" inquired Aunt Em. "Terribly scared, madam," answered the lion, "for at first I thought you were going to have a fit. Then I noticed you were trying to overcome me with the power of your eye, and your glance was so fierce and penetrating that I shook with fear." This greatly pleased the lady, and she said quite cheerfully, "Well, I won't hurt you. So don't be scared anymore. I just wanted to see what the human eye was good for." "The human eye is a fearful weapon," remarked the lion, scratching his nose softly with his paw to hide his smile. "Had I not known you were Dorothy's friends, I might have torn you both to shreds in order to escape your terrible gaze." Aunt Em shuddered at hearing this, and Uncle Henry said hastily, "I'm glad you knew us. Good morning, Mr. Lion." "Well, hope to see you again by and by, sometime in the future." "Good morning," replied the lion, squatting down upon the lawn again. "You are likely to see a good deal of me if you live in the land of Oz." "Lori!" "Oh, have a great night, Lori. I appreciate you, boo. Cheers! I hope you're doing well." Sorry, I'm scrolling back, y'all. Another membership by Team Mishins. Let's go. I appreciate you, Mishins. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Jesse, good night, y'all. Great stream as always, Kat. Thank you, Jesse. I appreciate you. In fact, I'm fairly certain I ran this 1 through 8, so we only have one more chapter left. Yep, we only have one more chapter left to go. And not too soon, too, because at about 26% battery. But I'm really enjoying the story for some reason. I don't know why I'm enjoying Aunt Em and Uncle Henry being in Oz so much. I just think it's a real nice... I don't know. I just have a feeling that something bad is going to happen, though. I don't know why I have this feeling. But let's get into number 8. Let's finish this stream strong. Just at about that hour 55, so right on par. As we get into chapter 8, how the Grand Gallipoot joined the gnomes. You're still in my awe. I appreciate that, Jers. I do. And it is good to see you. I'm going to be working on all the milestone icons and the emojis to be using too. So stay tuned, y'all. I'm learning together, but I'm going to try and make it fun for all of us. Chapter 8, how the Grand Gallipoot joined the gnomes. After leaving the Whimsies, Guff continued on his journey and penetrated far into the northwest. He wanted to get the country of the Growlywogs, and in order to do that, he must cross the Ripple Land, which was a hard thing to do, for the Ripple Land was a succession of hills and valleys, all very steep and rocky, and they changed places constantly by rippling. While Guff was climbing a hill, it sank down under him and became a valley, and while he was descending into a valley, it rose up and carried him on top of a hill. This was very perplexing to the traveler, and the stranger might have thought he could never cross the Ripple Land at all, but Guff knew if he kept steady on, he would get to the end at last. So he paid no attention to the changing hills and valleys, and plodding along as calmly as if walking upon a level ground. The result of this wise persistence was that the general finally reached firmer soil, and after penetrating a dense forest, came to the dominion of the Growlywogs. No sooner had he crossed the border of this dominion when 2 guards seized him and carried him before the Grand Gallipoot of the Growlywogs, who scowled upon him furiously and asked him why he dared intrude upon his territory. "I am the Lord High General of the incredible army of the gnomes, and my name is Guff," was the reply. All the world trembles when that name is mentioned. The Growlywogs gave a shout of jeering laughter at this, and none of them caught that the gnome in his strong arms one of them caught the gnome in his strong arms and tossed him high into the air. Guff was considerably shaken when he fell upon the hard ground, but he appeared to take no notice of the impertinence, and composed himself to speak again to the Grand Gallipoot. "My master, King Roquat the Red, has sent me here to confer with you. He wishes your assistance to conquer the land of Oz." Here the general paused, and the Great Gallipoot scowled upon him more terribly than ever and said, "Go on." The voice of the Grand Gallipoot was partly a roar and partly a growl. He mumbled his words badly, and Guff had to listen carefully in order to understand him. These Growlywogs were certainly remarkable creatures. They were of gigantic size, yet were all bone and skin and muscle, there being no meat or fat upon their bodies at all. Their powerful muscles lay just beneath their skins, like a bunch of tough rope, and the weakest Growlywog was so strong that he could pick up an elephant and toss it 7 miles away. It seems unfortunate that strong people are usually so disagreeable and overbearing that no one cares for them. In fact, to be different from your fellow creatures is always a misfortune. The Growlywogs knew that they were disliked and avoided by everyone, so they had become surly and unsociable even among themselves. Guff knew that they hated all people, including the gnomes, but he had hoped to win them over nevertheless, and knew that if he succeeded, they would afford him a very powerful assistance. The land of Oz is ruled by the namby-pamby girl who is disgustingly kind and good, he continued. Her people are all happy and contented and have no care or worry whatever. Go on, growled the Grand Gilliput. Once the Gnome King enslaved the royal family of Ev, another goody-good lot that we detest, said the general. But Ozma interfered, although it was none of her business, and marched her army against us. With her was the Kansas girl named Dorothy and a yellow hen, and they marched directly into the Gnome King's cavern. There they liberated our slaves from Ev and stole King Roquat's magic belt, which they carried away with them. So now our king is making a tunnel under the deadly desert, so we can march through to the Emerald City. When we get there, we mean to conquer and destroy all the land and recapture the magic belt. Again he paused, and again the Grand Galliput growled, Go on. Guff tried to think of what to say next, and a happy thought soon occurred to him. We want you to help us on this conquest, he announced, for we need the mighty aid of the Grollywogs in order to make sure that we shall not be defeated. You are the strongest people in all the world, and you hate good and happy creatures as much as we gnomes do. I am sure it will be a real pleasure to you to tear down the beautiful Emerald City, and in return for your valuable assistance, we will allow you to bring back to your country 10,000 people of Oz to be your slaves. 20,000! Growled the Grand Gilliput. All right, we promise you 20,000, agreed the general. The Galliput made this signal, and at once his attendants picked up the General Guff and carried him away to a prison, where the jailer amused himself by sticking pins into the round, fat body of the old gnome to see him jump and hear him yell. But while this was going on, the Grand Galliput was talking with his counselors, who were most important officials of the Grollywogs. When he had stated to them the proposition of the Gnome King, he said, My advice is to offer to help them. Then, when we have conquered the land of Oz, we will take not only our 20,000 prisoners, but all the gold and jewels we want. Let us take the magic belt too, suggested one counselor. And rob the Gnome King and make him our slave, said another. That's a good idea, declared the Grand Galliput. I like King Roquat for my own slave. He could black my boots and bring me my porridge every morning while I'm in bed. There's a famous scarecrow in Oz. I'll take him for my slave, said a counselor. I'll take Tick-Tock the Machine Man, said another. Give me the Tin Woodman, said a third. They went on for some time, dividing up the people and the treasure of Oz in advance of the conquest, for they had no doubt that all they would be able to destroy Ozma's domain. Were they not the strongest people in all the world? The deadly desert has kept us out of Oz before, remarked the Grand Galliput. But now that the Gnome King is building a tunnel, we shall get to the Emerald City very easily. So let us send the fat little general back to his king with our promise to assist him. We will not say that we intend to conquer the gnomes after we have just conquered Oz, but we will do so just the same. This plan being agreed upon, they all went home to dinner, leaving General Guff still in prison. The gnome had no idea that he had succeeded in his mission, for finding himself in prison, he feared the Grollywogs intended to put him to death. By this time, the jailer had tired of sticking pins in the general, and was amusing himself by carefully pulling the gnome's whiskers out by the roots, one at a time. This enjoyment was interrupted by the Grand Galliput sending for the prisoner. Wait a few hours, begged the jailer. I haven't pulled out a quarter of his whiskers yet. If you keep the Grand Galliput waiting, he'll break your back, declared the messenger. Perhaps you're right, sighed the jailer. Take the prisoner away if you will, but I advise you to kick him at every step he takes. It'll be good fun, for he is as soft as a ripe peach. So Guff was led away to the royal castle, where the Grand Galliput told him the Grollywogs have decided to assist the gnomes in conquering the land of Oz. Whenever you're ready, he added, send me word and I will march with 18,000 of my most powerful warriors to your aid. Guff was so delighted that he forgot all the smarting caused by the pins and the pulling of his whiskers. He did not even complain of the treatment he had received, but thanked the Grand Galliput and hurried away on his journey. He had now secured the assistance of the Whimsies and the Grollywogs, but his success made him long for still more allies. His own life depending upon his conquering Oz, and he said to himself, I'll take no chances. I'll be certain of success. Then, when Oz is destroyed, perhaps I shall be a greater man than old Roquat, and I can throw him away and be the king of the gnomes myself. Why not? The Whimsies are stronger than the gnomes, and they also are my friends. There are some people still stronger than the Grollywogs, and if I can induce them to aid me, I shall have nothing more to fear. Oh, that sneaky little bugger. He's getting all the evil allies together, but he's making sure that one can take out the other if needed. Whew. Good night, y'all. Alec Longoria. No worries at all. I appreciate you, Alec. Heavy D, how's it going? It's good to see you, brother. Kara. No worries at all. Good night. I hope you have a good night. Sleep well. Well, that was an interesting story time, I will say that. I hope you all enjoyed story time. That was chapter 8. We will get into chapter 9. Going to go and visit the highly magnified and thoroughly educated Wogglebug. And I reckon we might have to take a peek and see if there's anybody live to raid. I appreciate that. Heavy D, I truly appreciate that, man. It's been a long road and the grind indeed, but we made it. Yeah, I'm really liking where this story is going. It seems like all out war. Rob is live, and there's no better where to go. I think we're gonna go and see our buddy Red and Blue, or Red or Blue. So yeah, I think we're gonna do that. And me, I think I'm gonna eat some dinner, and I will of course be in the raid for a little bit. But y'all, thank you so much for making all of this a possibility, for the watch hours, for the members, the new members, the super chats that came through tonight. It's been absolutely wonderful. And Thursday and Saturday, come back. We're gonna celebrate a little bit here and there, and I want you all to know that I would not be me without each and every single one of you, my Ghost fam. So thank you so much for everything you do. Might as well add to it, so long as the UPV raid is going on. There we go. Thank you, Kara. So Kara posted a link to Rob, Red or Blue. Let's go and raid Red or Blue with a ghost raid, ghosty reading raid. Remember, everybody, always go out and get everything that you set out to get, and do not let anything stop you. But it takes $0 to be a good person. Always do it through. Peace, love, and Pokemon. I love you all so much, and I will see you on Thursday. Later, y'all. Let's go raid.